this year we started a garden because we would want as much as possible to impart life skills in the children. And in the end, it becomes self-reliant as a school. Gone are the days when we want to just continue asking for money from donors. Eventually, when you are able to come up with the very good gardens, the tailoring shop, we raise monies, we want to expand this school. It is not the good size of the school.
Okay.
Of late, they have removed the grade 8 class because of lack of classroom accommodation and teachers accommodation. But looking at our children, we are dealing with a fishing camp where people would equate education to fishing. They don't even care about education. They need life skills and they need to further their education. If only we can be self-reliant and be able to put up maybe one classroom block, a few more teachers' houses, no matter how small, so that at least we may make a difference. Because education is about behavioral change. But if we can't bring that change, then we're not doing anything for the community. The question is, where do we begin from? As much as possible, we want to be self-sustainable. We really need a lot of aid so that we have a starting point. Because if we talk of self-sustainability, when we are at zero, then we'll not head anywhere. It will just be dreams that will never be realized and it will not make sense. So if we have some donor to begin with, and then they see how best we can develop from there, where they leave us. If we don't, then we are not truly looking for self-sustainability. Funding is extremely difficult actually. Even when it's said it's a free education, you'll find maybe once, funding will come twice in a year, and which is very, very meager, very, very minute. Yes, it doesn't cater for all the needs of the school.
So what do you do?
We have agreed with the parents that each household pays a certain amount so that we come up with the money we need to try and push up the projects. And we hope to even put up a library so that we can be one of the exceptional schools. I know we have the potential. The kids, they contribute a 5 kwacha per term. But then we have to fund all the activities, the clubs, the sports, whatever. Meaning the essence of free education is not really there. It is just theoretical, not practical.
But I guess that's the same worldwide, isn't it? I mean, in my country, we all have to lobby to try and get the funds from the government, and everybody has to try to get grants.
Eventually, fish will come to an extinct, and they'll have nothing else to do because there are just too many fishermen on the lake. So maybe the new generation should do something different other than all of them opting to go into the lake. Maybe that is not the best alternative. They can have other skills to do other than fishing. Now it is only through education that we can impart more skills.
I know it looks like there's kids doing this work, but these kids are all part of this school, and the whole point is that they appreciate where this money comes from, that they have to be a part of this income generation so that their school can grow.
We have planned to be feeding them at least even 2 times in a week, so that to motivate them, they should know why they are working. Because when you just sell the vegetables, they don't understand. Even when you tell them we have this project, they don't understand how it is part of them.
No, it's cool that the kids are all involved in the growing. They've made 1,000 in the last few months, which is roughly $200 from the garden.
But eventually, to motivate them to work some more, we'll be feeding them. Child participation. Not child labor, but child participation.
The Tailoring Centre provides training and employment whilst generating vital funds for the school. And what's really interesting is that it's a pilot, and if it works, it will be the model for future income generating activities.
According to our plan, we had much more. We also have industrial arts like woodwork and metalwork. After these have been successful, the 2 gardening and tailoring have been successful, so that we don't get everything at the same time. We see some success in the first ones, then we can go on to the other one.
Do you think there's any difference in the skills that the kids learn going to a school that is funded versus a school that's self-sufficient?
There's a big difference, because those that go into a school that is already funded, and it's not everyone that will excel in education, some will drop out, and they will leave that school without anything. They'll have no skill because they did not train, they were not self-reliant, they were only funded, so they'll go out and become sufferers in life. But when they have a feel of what it is to raise the funds for themselves. And they become more responsible in the way they use the things because they know they suffered for that. They become part and parcel of the school. Vandalism will be reduced because they know if we do this, that will happen. So they'll be a bit responsible.
Like, do you look to outside help for funds? And what's the best thing for your school to grow?
As at now, if people can give us money, we can be very grateful because we can build quickly. But it's only that we don't even know who can give us money. That is why we try to work very hard to see what we can do, how best we can work with the garden, maybe the tailoring center. I've been lobbying schools around, advertising for uniform. So at least one school already has responded, we're making uniform. Maybe eventually from the profits, we can be able to do one or two things, though it is a very, very long term. Yes. Building from the profits is a bit tricky.
Does your school want to have volunteers come?
Very much. Very much. Actually, in the first term we had one who was supplementing the teaching of English language. Yes, she would come in the afternoon, get extra lessons. The children really loved that.
Yeah, why?
Yes. The teachers that we have here, they have a syllabus to follow. And then the volunteer will come up with something like a surplus. Then at least it builds up from where the teacher ends.
Do you have enough teachers here for all of your classes?
No. We have employed 3 from the community who are not trained, who we are paying. So we don't even have enough teachers.
So if you had a volunteer who was a teacher who could come for a couple of months, what would you say?
It would be very wonderful. Yes. Because even the workload for the teachers would be reduced. You'll find that the deputy head who is handling grade 6 is not supposed to have a full class because there's some office work to do. We don't have somebody to replace him. We don't have the manpower. I take 2 subjects in grade 9. I have history and Zambian languages because we don't have the teachers. Maybe for 1 day, 2 days, it's just like a passerby, not really a volunteer because the impact will not be felt. Because a volunteer should leave some impact in the school. We should feel this is what the volunteers left for us. Yes.
So how long do you think is a good time? And what would be ideal?
At least a term, at least 3 months.
I've heard though of teachers going, oh, it's fine, there's a volunteer here now, I can sit back and snooze and let the volunteer teach.
No, that is not good as well because they have to do something. When they're entitled for a class, there's a certain number of periods they have to take. So they should not hand or everything to the volunteer because then they get paid for nothing. Because when they surrender all their classes, it means they're getting paid for nothing, which is not good. Then as a supervisor, I must ensure that they do what they're supposed to do.
A volunteer comes in and takes over a class, maybe for 3 weeks and then leaves. And then another one comes in for 3 weeks and they leave. Then the kids are like, ugh, these volunteers will keep coming in and moving.
And you definitely not give that volunteer to the same class.
Okay.
Yes, because if we give volunteers to the same class again, it means they'll be disrupted because they have a period of learning a teacher. So if it stays here for 3 weeks, they have to learn. Before they get used to that teacher, another one comes in. It means the whole year, they'll be just taking time to learn new people and they will not get anything from the syllabus. What is helpful and not helpful. And that is why definitely will not maintain volunteers for one class. Okay. So that maybe each class has something to be helped.
Okay, so they have a little extra, but they still have their full lessons going on.
Yes. At a certain point in time, donors will pull out. And then you'll go back to ground zero, which is not good. You should have a focus.
But donors should pull out.
Yes, of course they should. Because if you really wait to be on a receiving end for the rest of your life, but then where are you heading to? Donor funding is just like a child. At a certain point in time, the child should be weaned. And then they should continue from where the donor has left them.
And if you don't, how can you teach your children?
I tell you, how? Where do we begin from? So you should at least try. People should see that you are trying to put in enough. It's only that the resources can't allow. Not where you fold your arms, then you just tell them of your dreams. But if you have something to convince people that I wanted this and that, if only I could have a startup kit.
What do you think a donor should do if they give money to somebody and that person doesn't change and doesn't become self-sustainable? What should the donor do then? Should they keep on giving money or what should they do?
No. Because if they continue giving money, it means they only work with one community for the rest of their lives. Others that will need the help will not find it. Let me say, for example, this school. If we are funded, we have some funds, we begin somewhere, start generating, we should be able ourselves to help a neighboring community that is not self-sustainable, other than waiting for an unknown donor. We can as well become a donor to the next community. There was a community school somewhere which just disappeared. Maybe because they didn't have people to encourage them. Not really funding, some people to encourage them. Maybe they're used to be receiving things on a silver plate, which is wrong. How do you teach even your own children at home? Because they should learn that in my absence, in the case of eventualities, I die as a parent. Life must go on without me. They should not get begging balls to go out in the street begging for help. They should be self-sustainable. So at least communities should be that way.
Now you should go and become the president of Zambia. I get worried with some schools sending volunteers out that they just want the volunteers in order to get money. There's no long-term sustainability. This project, happily, does not worry me in any way because they're doing the opposite of that. So yes, they do need a little bit of funding to begin with, but they have everything in place right now. They have this garden over here that the kids are working on, they're eating from, they're learning from. They have the tailoring centre that has just begun, but they're hoping to acquire more machines so that they can expand it. From any income they get from that, they're going to expand into more skills training activities. And as the headmistress herself says, like, this is very much integral to the way they teach here, because it's not just about flat out academia. She recognises in this area that not everybody is going to be able to go on with academia and that they need skills. So everything about the way they're setting up this school and their vision for the future is about sustainability. Sustainability for the children, sustainability for the school. So yes, they do need funding, but even schools in my country need funding to begin with. And the point here is that they are focused on being sustainable in the future and giving the right message to their students. So as a volunteer, you can really be a part of that, be a part of the aid in the beginning and then the sustainability in the long run.